Have you ever wondered what truly lies at the core of your strongest emotions? What sparks growth, strength, or vulnerability within? Beneath every feeling and reaction dwells a powerful force, your own awareness, patiently waiting to be awakened and understood. This book will guide you on an illuminating journey to discover how mindful self-reflection can transform not just your emotions, but your entire experience of life. As you turn each page, you'll learn to embrace the whispers of your heart and find purpose in every feeling you encounter. Aware Heart, Strengthening Emotional Growth with Mindfulness, written and published by Awaken Vision. Chapter 1. Have you ever felt like you were running on autopilot, moving through your days without truly feeling alive or present? There is a quiet ache that many people carry, a sense that something essential is missing, or that they are watching life from behind a pane of glass. It can surface in moments when you sit in a crowded room and suddenly feel alone, or wake up each morning and wonder if your days are just blurring together. This is not merely a fleeting mood. It's the inner flame of awareness quietly sputtering, dimmed by routines, stress, and the rush of daily responsibilities. Many people find themselves stuck, repeating the same thoughts, habits, and reactions without pause. They yearn for something more but aren't sure what it is or how to reach for it. This chapter begins by exploring this universal problem, the dulling of the internal spark that makes us feel truly alive, and why it matters. Feeling disconnected from your own heart and purpose doesn't happen overnight, but rather sneaks up gradually. You may have tried to push aside uncomfortable feelings, focusing on superficial distractions. Over time, the colors of life seem to fade, and your natural curiosity or passion feels out of reach. This internal dullness is not just a minor inconvenience. It erodes your self-esteem and can even impact your relationships. When you don't feel connected to yourself, it's almost impossible to feel deeply connected to others. Imagine a candle left unattended. It burns lower, its flame flickers in the slightest draft, and it threatens to go out. That inner burn is your sense of vitality, motivation, and capacity for joy. Without intentional attention, it dims until it becomes almost invisible, and everything you do starts to feel routine or meaningless. Consider the story of Mia, a teacher who loved inspiring her students. Over time, though, endless grading and deadlines overwhelmed her, and she stopped noticing the small victories and joys in her classroom. She dragged herself to work, never feeling truly present. One afternoon, a student thanked her with a shy smile for simply listening. This brief moment caught Mia off guard. For the first time in months, she paused and realized how numb she had become. This flicker of recognition, a sudden awareness of feeling, was the moment she knew something needed to change. Like Mia, most people wait for a sudden jolt to realize how much of their true selves they've set aside in the scramble of daily life. Understanding this problem is crucial because your awareness is not just a silent observer. It lights the way to growth, purpose, and fulfillment. That inner flame, once reignited, can torch away complacency and fuel better decisions, deeper connections, and lasting joy. Awakening this spark is not reserved for a select few. It is possible for anyone willing to turn inward and listen. Throughout the coming pages, you will chart your own path out of numbness and back into vibrant self-awareness. Staying numb means continuing to drift, but awakening even a single spark can change the whole course of your life. When you discover how to ignite that flame within, you don't only reclaim motivation, you open the door to a richer, more meaningful journey. The way to revive that hidden flame is through the simple but powerful practice of mindful self-reflection. Mindful self-reflection is about pausing to check in with your inner world, paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations in the moment. It means turning your gaze inward with curiosity rather than judgment or criticism. This approach brings a gentle awareness to what is happening within you, creating space for growth, understanding, and positive change. Instead of forcing yourself to be positive or ignoring your struggles, you honor your emotional reality and allow it to guide you toward what you truly need. This practice works because awareness naturally brings transformation. The very act of observing where you are opens the possibility for movement and growth. Science supports what many wisdom traditions have understood for centuries. Awareness alone, practiced over time, starts to loosen the grip of negative patterns and brings your actions and emotions back into alignment with your core values. When someone embraces mindful self-reflection, they begin to notice how often they run on autopilot, trapped in old routines. Instead of being swept away by a stressful situation, you learn to pause and ask yourself what you're feeling, why you might be reacting a certain way, and what might help in that moment. For example, if you feel irritated because someone spoke sharply to you, instead of snapping back or shutting down, you can recognize the irritation, see it as a signal rather than a command, and respond consciously. This simple act, checking in with yourself, restores choice and freedom. Research on mindfulness practices, including mindful self-reflection, shows benefits such as reduced anxiety and depression, improved emotional regulation, and even increased life satisfaction. According to scientific studies, people who regularly practice mindfulness report higher levels of happiness and resilience. The explanation is clear. When you see your experience more clearly, you stop fighting against reality and start to work with it. The benefits reach even deeper than emotional balance. When you strengthen your self-awareness, your relationships also improve. You begin to understand your own triggers and recognize patterns that repeat in your interactions with others. You become more present with your loved ones and colleagues, able to listen more deeply and respond thoughtfully. The very act of tuning into yourself allows for genuine connection because you are no longer hiding behind automatic defenses or masks. As your spark reignites, it illuminates every part of your life, inspiring creativity, motivation, and purpose. The energy you bring to each day grows more vivid and authentic. The sense of numbness begins to fade, replaced by a quiet, steady enthusiasm that colors your routine with meaning again. Over time, mindful self-reflection becomes a way of life, teaching you to trust your inner compass. The willingness to notice and name your feelings, without harshness or shame, offers gentle freedom and empowers you to move forward even when things are uncertain. You learn that growth is not a dramatic leap, but a series of small choices to pay attention, to return to yourself, and to continue pursuing what matters. This subtle practice is the foundation for all emotional nourishment and self-development. As you continue, remember that every journey begins with a single moment of awareness, a spark, waiting for you to notice and tend it. This will be the start of a meaningful transformation and the dawn of deeper emotional strength. Embracing mindful self-reflection comes with a wave of positive outcomes, bringing vibrancy back into your life and infusing even ordinary days with meaning. As you make these practices a natural part of your daily routine, you'll notice yourself becoming calmer under pressure and more in tune with your true feelings. That sense of internal numbness will recede, giving space for vital emotions to surface. Rather than feeling overwhelmed, you'll start to navigate ups and downs with greater ease, seeing challenges not as threats, but as invitations to grow. The energy you save from no longer battling your emotions can now be invested in your creativity, relationships, and personal achievements. Compassion for yourself gradually becomes a daily habit, crafting an inner world that is gentler, wiser, and more resilient, and this change ripples outward, uplifting everything you touch. Turning mindful self-reflection into a lasting habit is entirely within your reach. Begin by setting aside a short, regular moment for check-ins, perhaps a few minutes each morning or evening. During this time, find a comfortable space, close your eyes if you wish, and focus on your breathing. Ask yourself simple questions such as, "What am I feeling right now?" Or, "What thoughts have been visiting me today?" Don't look for right or wrong answers. Just observe and allow whatever comes up to surface. Gradually, you can expand this to other moments, waiting for the kettle to boil, pausing in the car before heading into work, or winding down at the end of a long day. The more consistent you are, the more natural this habit becomes, gently rewiring your response to life's twists and turns. Remember, building the skill does not require marathon sessions. Small, frequent steps lead to big transformation. You will see these benefits appear in the most practical corners of life. In your personal relationships, this new clarity allows you to empathize and communicate more openly, catching automatic reactions before they can cause harm. For example, imagine a disagreement with a friend. Instead of acting defensive or shutting down, use a mindful pause to process your own emotions and listen deeply. This small switch transforms conflict into connection. At work or study, self-reflection empowers you to identify stress or frustration early, enabling proactive responses instead of burnout. If a project feels overwhelming, take a moment to check in and recognize what's truly stressing you. Maybe it's a fear of failure or the pressure to perform. With this awareness, you can address the root instead of being swept up by anxiety and refocus with fresh perspective. Even personal growth accelerates when you practice regular reflection. Journaling, meditative walks, or sharing insights with a trusted confidant are all accessible ways to anchor this habit, bringing subtle, positive shifts into every corner of life. Let this be the start of a new adventure, not a test or a competition. Every time you pause, breathe, and truly notice yourself, you are taking a step closer to a more fulfilling, vibrant experience. Know that change is built from small, steady moments. A spark each day can add up to a brilliant blaze over time. Your efforts count, even when progress feels subtle or slow. Celebrate your courage in showing up for yourself and reflect on how you are growing with each intentional check-in. Growth is not a straight path, but each turn along the way holds a lesson and a gift. As you prepare for the next chapter, you'll discover tools to rewire your thoughts toward positivity, building on the foundation you've established here. The power to change rests in your awareness, and you have already begun. Before moving on, take a quiet moment for gratitude and let yourself be excited for all that's ahead on this journey. To keep fueling your growth and community support, remember to subscribe to Awaken Vision channel and share your reflections or ideas in the comments. Your voice matters, and every insight adds light for others on this shared path. Chapter 2. Have you ever caught yourself trapped in a whirlwind of negative thinking, unable to escape the constant loops of doubt, worry, or criticism? It's astonishing how quickly our minds can shift from hope to hesitation, and how repeated negative thoughts seem to invade every quiet moment. This invisible mental struggle affects almost everyone at some point and can make life feel heavier than it needs to be. You may notice yourself dwelling on past mistakes, doubting your future capabilities, or assuming the worst about any new situation. This cycle is exhausting, and often, without truly realizing it, you begin to believe these worries more than your own possibility for growth and happiness. The challenge of negative thinking often lies in its subtlety. It sneaks into your inner narrative, and before you know it, shapes your outlook on what you can achieve, experience, or enjoy. Recognizing the nature and impact of these thought patterns is crucial, as negative thinking does so much more than create momentary distress. It sets the emotional weather of your day, colors your relationships, and gently guides or restricts your choices. A single pessimistic assumption can blossom into a general sense of defeat. What starts as one anxious thought about an upcoming conversation can quickly cloud your confidence in a variety of areas. This thinking does not just impact the mind, it seeps into the body, affecting energy, mood, and even your physical health. No one wakes up planning to be caught in a storm of negativity, yet it is all too common to feel helpless as your own thoughts undermine your intentions and dreams. Whether it starts as the cautious voice of self-protection or as leftover echoes from someone else's doubts, these patterns often outstay their welcome and keep you from trying new things, connecting with others, or fully living each day. Consider the story of Sam, who recently started a new job. Although well qualified, Sam found himself replaying every small error in his mind, convinced each misstep would lead to disappointment or failure. He noticed that rather than enjoying the excitement of a fresh challenge, he was anticipating things going wrong. Even positive feedback felt fleeting, always outweighed by self-imposed criticism that made him hesitant to speak up or try new approaches. This burden slowly chipped away at his motivation, making even his successes feel less meaningful. Like Sam, many people do not realize how quietly but powerfully negative thoughts shape their behaviors and self-perception. It's all too easy to shrink from new experiences or avoid risks when an inner voice repeatedly suggests things will not turn out well. Understanding and confronting this mental challenge matters deeply because the quality of your thoughts becomes the quality of your life. The journey to greater positivity is not about pretending that negativity does not exist or forcing yourself to ignore difficulties. It is about learning to see your own thinking clearly and taking gentle, consistent steps to reshape it. The mind is like a garden. As you nurture positive and supportive thoughts, you clear out space for self-confidence, hope, and possibility to take root. In the coming pages, you will explore how to shift these entrenched mental habits and begin to rewire your outlook for genuine, sustainable positivity. The key to breaking free from persistent negative thinking is learning to notice your thoughts with mindful awareness and consciously guiding them toward more uplifting directions. This practice, often called cognitive reframing, means observing automatic thoughts as they arise and gently challenging them when they lean toward the negative. Rather than accepting each thought as an unquestionable fact, you treat it as a mental habit that can be replaced over time. By mentally stepping back and applying curiosity instead of self-judgment, you open up space to question whether your automatic thoughts are truly valid, realistic, or helpful. This small shift creates powerful possibilities. If a discouraging thought arises, such as "I always mess up at work," you learn to pause and ask yourself, "Is that really true all the time, or have I just had a few bad days?" By responding with a more balanced perspective, you begin to chip away at unhelpful patterns and let more positive, reasonable thinking emerge. This strategy is grounded in real psychological research, especially in areas like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which has helped millions of people gain better control of their thought cycles. Decades of evidence show that regularly reframing negative thoughts can significantly lift mood, increase hopefulness, and build real emotional resilience. The underlying principle is that our thoughts shape our emotional and physical experience far more than we realize. When your brain receives more positive, supportive messages, your confidence improves, your stress responses weaken, and even your relationships transform for the better. You are not ignoring problems, but giving yourself a more accurate lens through which to view challenges. Over time, your mind begins to naturally reach for supportive ideas and possibilities before defaulting to unhelpful doubts, gradually rewiring your automatic inner responses. Developing this mental resilience is beneficial because it creates a lasting foundation for positivity, not just fleeting moments of hope. It is a core life skill that can help you face difficult situations with greater calm and openness. Seeing your thoughts for what they are, simply thoughts, not truths, adds a sense of independence and control over your internal world. Instead of feeling trapped by unhelpful patterns, you can choose which ideas you want to nourish. This empowers fresh action in places where you once felt stuck. It also has ripple effects beyond your internal state. People who practice mindful thought reframing find themselves more open to solutions at work, more compassionate with loved ones, and more able to bounce back after setbacks. This shift is not about rose-colored glasses or forced denial, but about training the mind to respond constructively and realistically, rather than habitually spiraling into negativity. As you steadily practice this method, the benefits accumulate. Not only will your day-to-day outlook brighten, but you may find yourself achieving goals that once felt unreachable. Your self-reflection gains depth and honesty, and your emotional responses become less reactive and more thoughtful. The initial effort to notice and reshape your thinking is a worthy investment because it lights up the possibilities within your mind and creates space for new growth. Take heart that progress is possible for anyone, because the brain is capable of forging new pathways at any age or stage. Through simple yet intentional choices, you give yourself the power to write a different story, and positivity, once learned and practiced, can become a way of life. Consistently practicing cognitive reframing leads to deep and lasting change that touches every aspect of life. As you learn to recognize and lovingly question your negative thoughts, you'll begin to see every situation through a kinder, more realistic lens. Days feel lighter when your first response to a setback isn't self-blame or hopelessness, but curiosity and flexibility. You'll find it easier to motivate yourself and spot opportunities rather than getting mired in doubts. Over time, the weight of old thinking habits lifts, and simple joys return, the way laughter feels in your chest, the freedom to make mistakes without lifelong verdicts, the fresh optimism sparking new relationships and projects. The real beauty shines through in your resilience. Instead of being thrown by each challenge, you start to view them as invitations to learn, adapt, and expand your self-understanding. This new steadiness spreads outward, nourishing your self-esteem and your bond with others. Turning this method into a habit involves clear, approachable steps that anyone can follow. Each day, take a mindful pause, even just a few minutes, to become aware of your inner voice. When a negative or harsh thought appears, first name it internally with gentle curiosity, such as, "That's a fear of failure," or "Here's a moment of doubt." Then, intentionally ask whether the thought is entirely true and look for evidence that challenges its worst-case scenario. Practice responding with compassion the way you might encourage a friend. For instance, if you catch yourself thinking, "I'll never be good at this," you might gently counter with, "I'm learning, and it's okay to need practice." Or, "Everyone starts somewhere, and progress is the goal." Recording these thought shifts in a journal helps you track patterns and progress over time. Compliment your effort, not just outcomes, and be honest with yourself. Positivity is built on truth, not forced cheer. If the initial step feels hard, start small. Even redirecting a single negative belief each day is enough to reset your mind's default over time. Applying this approach in daily life can be transformative in all areas. In your personal growth, reflections might come when you notice reluctance to try something new. Instead of giving power to hesitancy, use the moment to gently encourage yourself. In relationships, when conflict arises, pause before reacting defensively, check for negative assumptions, and consciously invite a kinder interpretation, allowing better understanding and harmony. At work or during studies, when tough feedback stings, ask whether the criticism truly defines your capabilities, or if it is an area to learn for future strength. Little by little, these mindful practices allow you to detach from old mental scripts and respond from a place of clarity and self-acceptance. Remember, every single step of this process matters. Real transformation doesn't demand perfection, but thrives on steady, consistent practice. Each honest check-in with your thoughts, each moment when you pause and shift your mental story, is a small but powerful act of self-care. Challenges are signals that you are learning, not proofs of your limits. With patience, you can shape a mindset that carries hope, possibility, and kindness into every situation you meet. As you move forward, get ready to build even greater strength with resilience and gratitude. Next, you will discover how developing these qualities transforms both emotional storms and everyday routines into opportunities for prosperity and peace. Keep nurturing your growth by subscribing to Awaken Vision channel and sharing your stories or suggestions in the comments. Your journey inspires others, and your insight is part of making our vibrant, mindful community stronger every day. Chapter 3. Life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way, sometimes so suddenly that it feels like the very ground beneath us is shifting. Maybe it's a setback at work, a misunderstanding with someone close, or simply the quiet heaviness that creeps in when days pile up with routine disappointments. These moments often bring frustration, sadness, or even the urge to shut down and withdraw. Many of us are left wondering how certain people seem to bounce back with hope and even gratitude after hardship, while others feel swept away by their struggles. It often appears as if resilience, the ability to absorb life's blows and still keep moving, belongs only to a lucky few. However, resilience is not a quality reserved for the exceptional. It is a skill that develops gradually and can be nurtured by every one of us. Understanding resilience and how people regain strength after adversity matters greatly. When you lack resilience, difficulties feel immense, and your confidence and happiness take a hit that can linger. Stress and obstacles become overwhelming roadblocks instead of hurdles to overcome, leaving you feeling powerless or stuck. Without a well of emotional strength to draw from, even small setbacks can morph into heavy burdens. The good news is resilience is not something you either have or you don't. It is something you build. Consider the way a tree bends but doesn't break in a storm because its roots run deep. Similarly, strengthening your own internal roots helps withstand life's gales. This isn't about pretending everything is fine, but learning to lean into tough experiences, finding meaning in the midst of turmoil, and emerging from difficulty with greater insight. When resilience is paired with gratitude, the ability to notice and appreciate small positives even during difficulty, your capacity for growth is multiplied. Gratitude acts like the healing sunlight that encourages you to keep reaching for the sky, even on the darkest days. Imagine Layla, who lost her job after many dedicated years. At first, the shock sent her spiraling into self-doubt and worry about her future. Each unsuccessful application felt like another blow, making her question her abilities and her worth. Weeks passed with little improvement, and negativity threatened to overwhelm her. However, after a heartfelt conversation with a friend, Layla decided to focus each evening on noting one thing she could be thankful for, no matter how small: a meal with her family, a kind message from someone, a moment of laughter. At first, it felt forced, even a little silly. But over time, this daily gratitude practice became her anchor. When another rejection arrived, she noticed she bounced back more quickly, able to look for lessons learned and the doors still opening. That growing sense of belonging, hope, and adaptability did not erase her pain, but made it manageable. Layla's story is not rare. It shows that resilience and gratitude together nurture the strength to move forward rather than be defined by setbacks. It is important to recognize the subtle damage when you let hardships settle inside unchallenged. Struggles left unchecked grow roots of bitterness or despair, while the same moments, when met with resilient gratitude, transform into lessons and seeds for new growth. This chapter exists to reveal how resilience and gratitude can become a living shield, not a rigid armor, allowing you to recover and thrive with every trial. Even the hardest moments can be a turning point that fuels personal development and real happiness. The solution to weathering life's storms lies in the simple, consistent practice of building resilience alongside everyday gratitude. To be resilient does not mean you are untouched by difficulty. It simply means you can recover, adapt, and find new momentum after setbacks. The human mind and spirit are flexible by nature, able to grow stronger with the right encouragement and tools. One highly effective strategy to develop resilience involves consciously shifting your focus to the things you can control during stressful times. Instead of worrying about all that is outside your grasp, you direct energy and attention to how you respond, what you learn, and what small choices you can make each day. This shift in focus, backed by research in psychology, eases feelings of helplessness and empowers you to act, no matter how challenging the situation. When partnered with gratitude, intentional reflection on the good, even if small, your inner resources expand. Scientifically, grateful thinking has a remarkable impact on both emotional and physical well-being. Studies show that gratitude amplifies resilience, lessens symptoms of depression and anxiety, and even improves sleep and heart health. The act of noticing and reflecting on positives helps balance out the natural tendency of our minds to focus on danger and what's lacking. Positive psychology researchers have found that even a brief daily gratitude practice rewires your brain to be more optimistic and future-focused. When gratitude becomes a routine part of life, difficult emotions lose some of their sharp edge, and you recover faster after adverse events. Combining gratitude with the determination to adapt in adversity forms an upward spiral. As you intentionally look for meaning and goodness in everyday life, your emotional reserves grow deeper, and your confidence in facing challenges strengthens. Making this shift is not merely wishful thinking or pretending negative feelings do not exist. Instead, it nurtures a realistic type of optimism where you acknowledge pain or setbacks honestly, while at the same time refusing to be defined by them. Just as strengthening a muscle requires repeated intentional effort, so does building emotional flexibility and appreciation. Resilient people are not naturally born with these skills. Research makes it clear they are built over time through cumulative choices and practices. Each time you notice something to be thankful for, no matter how minor, you send your mind the message that life contains more than hardship alone. This becomes a source of motivation, lifting your mood and giving you courage during tough moments. Beyond individual benefits, resilience and gratitude also improve how you relate to others. When you can cope with adversity and acknowledge the good, you model these traits for those around you, encouraging support, compassion, and togetherness. Families and workplaces with a foundation of resilience and appreciation tend to resolve conflict more peacefully and bounce back from dysfunction with greater unity. These skills help you to view struggles in relationships, disappointments at work, and personal failure as stepping stones rather than permanent setbacks. There is enormous power in making the choice to be both tough and grateful, to bend when life's winds are fierce and to seek light in the darkness. Over time, you recognize hardships as integral parts of your story. Challenges become teachers instead of punishers. This process opens the door to emotional healing and confidence that carries into every area of life. By blending resilient thinking with gratitude, you create the groundwork for lasting peace, joy, and hope, no matter what comes your way. The benefits of nurturing resilience and gratitude daily extend beyond simply feeling better after a setback. They fundamentally transform how you approach every aspect of life. When you weave these qualities into your routine, stress becomes more manageable, setbacks feel less permanent, and optimism finds its way in, even during hard times. Emotional strength replaces feelings of helplessness, and small moments of appreciation create ripples of positivity that brighten not only your own world but those around you. You find yourself facing problems with more clarity and patience, welcoming growth rather than fearing disappointment. Relationships also become stronger as your perspective shifts from blame or frustration to understanding and empathy. Professional challenges are opportunities to adapt and show your resourcefulness. Every challenge, instead of closing you off, opens new pathways for connection, learning, and self-respect. To begin anchoring these habits in your daily life, start with simple, repeatable actions. Each evening or morning, set aside a moment to reflect and name 3 things you are grateful for. These might be as humble as a kind word received, the warmth of sunlight on your face, or a comfortable moment of rest. Write your observations in a journal, or share them aloud with a friend or family member. The act of recording gratitude physically engages your mind, slowly reinforcing new, positive neural pathways and making thankfulness more instinctive with time. When adversity strikes, pause and ask, what can I learn from this? Or what quality can I strengthen through this experience? View each hurdle not as a breaking point, but as a training ground for flexibility and perseverance. If you experience tension in a relationship, take a breath and seek to notice your own resilience, perhaps the courage it takes to speak honestly, or the patience in hearing another's view. Acknowledging effort, progress, and small wins keeps resilience alive, no matter the pace of growth. In the context of work or studies, resilience and gratitude work together to keep motivation steady. On difficult days, jot down one skill you developed or problem you handled, even if it was imperfect. When faced with criticism or disappointment, allow yourself a moment to recognize any improvement or support, perhaps a colleague's encouragement or your own determination to try again. As these routines become habits, you begin to sense greater hope and satisfaction in daily life, and your capacity to make wise decisions in stressful times increases. In moments of overwhelm, even a deep breath and short reminder that difficulty brings its own kind of teaching will shift your perspective and recenter your mind. The cumulative effect of these practices is transformative. Every step toward resilience, every moment devoted to thankfulness, brings you closer to an unshakable foundation built from within. Let setbacks remind you of your progress. They are proof you are engaging with life, growing through its demands, and never giving in to defeat. With patience and regular attention, resilience and gratitude will become natural responses, coloring all your experiences with a sense of meaning and quiet confidence. Remember, the process is not about how quickly you master these habits, but how authentically you integrate them, one intention and reflection at a time. As you step into the next chapter, prepare to discover how harnessing the power of perspective can unlock new levels of understanding and peace. Stay committed to your journey, let yourself celebrate even the smallest victories, and know that your capacity to thrive expands each time you practice these skills. Before moving on, keep fueling your growth by subscribing to Awaken Vision channel, giving the video a like, and leaving your reflections or ideas in the comments. Your journey matters, and your wisdom helps strengthen our community, inspiring everyone to go further together. Chapter 4. There are days when life feels like a maze, each twist and turn colored by our worries or expectations. We all find ourselves caught in moments where events seem unjust, conflicts feel personal, or the same challenges repeat endlessly with no clear answer. Sometimes, despite our best intentions, it seems as though problems only pile up and the world appears to close in. In these situations, it's easy to feel stuck, locked into a single way of seeing things, unable to move past irritation, frustration, or sadness. The way we view these experiences, our perspective, quietly shapes our reality and determines whether we grow from difficulties or become hardened by them. Understanding perspective is vitally important because it's the silent filter behind every choice, emotion, and reaction we have. When we approach any situation, our mind instantly weaves past experiences, personal beliefs, and current moods into a particular view. If left unexamined, this perspective can subtly twist everything that happens, amplifying anger, anxiety, or defeat. At its most rigid, it traps us in a story where we always play the victim, never feel understood, or fear that things will never change for the better. Even small everyday events, like a critical comment from a coworker or an unexpected traffic jam when you are running late, can trigger outsized emotional reactions simply because of the lens through which we view them. Without awareness, our perspective becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, feeding our doubts and stresses until we start believing there is only one way to see the world, our way, right or wrong. Imagine Eli, who had a minor mistake at work, corrected by his supervisor. Immediately, Eli's mind interpreted the incident as proof that he was not good enough and that others were judging him harshly. He replayed the critique again and again, each time feeling the sting more deeply. The rest of Eli's day was colored by defensiveness and insecurity. Every conversation seemed tense, and every challenge like a threat. Later, after sharing his feelings with a trusted friend, Eli realized that others did not even think twice about the incident and were focused on their own work and concerns. This new information nudged Eli to reconsider his original viewpoint. Maybe, instead of judgment, the correction was just an ordinary part of learning. Perspective shift did not erase his embarrassment, but it allowed the weight of the moment to lighten, revealing space for self-compassion and growth. We have all played out stories in our heads that were less about the real world and more about the angle from which we were viewing it. You may recognize something of yourself in Eli's experience, how your days change when you cling tightly to a single painful interpretation of events. The issue is not just thinking positive, but becoming aware of the mental frame you bring to life's challenges. Challenging your own perspective does not deny your feelings or experiences, but opens up new ways to see, feel, and move forward with greater peace. When you can harness the power of perspective, you reclaim authorship of your own story, giving yourself new angles, meanings, and invitations for growth. The solution to feeling trapped by your own viewpoint begins with practicing the art of perspective taking, purposely stepping back from your initial impressions and exploring alternative ways of seeing the same situation. Perspective taking invites you to become both the storyteller and the reader of your own life, gently questioning the assumptions that color your emotional reactions. It starts by recognizing when your inner narrative is becoming rigid, such as when you only focus on how something went wrong or dwell on negative interpretations. This subtle practice does not mean dismissing your feelings or pretending problems do not exist. Rather, It means challenging yourself to look for a wider view, even if just for a moment, and considering how someone else, or even your future self, might experience or explain the same event. Researchers have found that consciously shifting perspective goes far beyond thinking positive. In fields such as psychology and conflict resolution, taking another viewpoint is recognized as a cornerstone of emotional intelligence and personal maturity. By momentarily leaving your familiar lens, your mind gains access to more information and different emotional responses. This flexibility empowers you to respond thoughtfully, reduce stress, and create healthier relationships with yourself and others. Perspective taking acts as a pause button, disrupting runaway thoughts and allowing you to realign with your values rather than your reactive mood. For example, after an argument with a loved one, you might initially see only your own hurt. By imagining how the other person perceived the situation, you develop empathy and lessen resentment, making resolution possible. When you regularly practice looking at several sides, your ability to adapt through difficult times grows sharper. Neuroscience supports that with consistent effort, perspective shifting can even change neural patterns, making the brain less prone to automatic negative cycles. This approach is profoundly beneficial because it brings clarity to otherwise murky or overwhelming emotional landscapes. Many challenges appear bigger than they are simply because they are magnified by stress or fear. When you tap into perspective, minor setbacks appear in the context of your entire journey, not as permanent flaws. You can better distinguish between problems you must confront and those you can let go. Perspective taking also cultivates humility and gratitude, helping you recognize that your understanding, while real, is always partial. This openness brings calm and patience, loosening the grip of difficult feelings and creating moments of unexpected insight. As it becomes more natural, you find yourself less entangled in drama, better able to collaborate, forgive, and show compassion. The key ingredients not just for personal success, but for harmony within families, teams, and communities. Furthermore, using perspective as a daily tool provides a gentle alternative to the inner critic. Where frustration or shame might once shut you down, alternative viewpoints encourage curiosity and perseverance. Instead of being sidetracked by a single mistake, you teach yourself to see setbacks as temporary or as hidden opportunities. You inspire yourself to grow, adapt, and reach for new approaches in all areas of life. The simple act of stepping back, asking, "What else could be true here?" renews your sense of control, flexibility, and hope. You remember that you hold the power to reinterpret events, not to rewrite the facts, but to reshape your story's meaning, leading you toward deeper peace, growth, and understanding. Cultivating the habit of shifting perspective enriches every part of your life, fostering emotional balance and greater compassion for yourself and others. As you make this practice a regular part of your routine, you'll notice that difficult situations lose some of their emotional charge. Instead of being stuck in frustration or self-doubt, you find pathways to understanding and acceptance, both inwardly and outwardly. This approach helps dissolve stress while opening you to creative solutions you may have overlooked when overwhelmed by a single viewpoint. Relationships transform too. Misunderstandings become fewer and deeper. Connections are possible as you practice seeing situations from someone else's eyes. Your work or study life will benefit as well. New challenges will no longer immediately feel like threats, but instead present opportunities to innovate, learn, or adapt. Each time you choose to look at a problem from more than one angle, you gain a little more confidence in your own ability to make wise choices and recover from setbacks. Turning this perspective shifting into a reliable tool is about taking small but intentional steps. When you notice your emotions intensifying after an event, pause. Ask yourself, how might someone else interpret this? Or, if I came back to this tomorrow, would I see it the same way? Writing out your interpretations in a journal and then searching for alternatives is a powerful exercise. Other tools include talking to trusted friends or family, inviting them to share their honest viewpoint. Often you'll discover details or feelings you were too invested in your own story to see. In situations of conflict, try stepping out of your role and imagining how both sides would describe what happened. Practice this routinely, especially with minor daily challenges, so it becomes easier to apply in more important moments. When things don't go according to plan, gently reframe the story. Perhaps what happened isn't proof you're failing, but a necessary trial leading you to a more satisfying outcome. Embrace the question, what can this teach me, every single day, and watch as your resilience and optimism grow. Let's bring these tips to real life. Suppose at work you receive harsh criticism about a project. Your immediate reaction is likely to feel discouraged or angry, believing you're being unfairly judged. Try instead to pause and ask what the feedback might look like from your supervisor's perspective. Maybe their comment is about expectations or pressures they too are facing, rather than a reflection of your worth. In relationships, if a friend is distant or short with you, first acknowledge your own feelings, then challenge yourself. Could they be struggling silently or just having a tough day unrelated to you? By applying these habits, you become less reactive and more responsive, able to support yourself and others through life's small and big difficulties. The real change shows when confidence starts to rise, not because you avoid discomfort, but because you learn from it and keep going. Every effort matters. Perspective is a skill, not an instant fix. As with anything worthwhile, consistency builds strength. And simply returning to the practice, even when it feels awkward, yields gradual but profound transformation. Track your progress and celebrate the aspiring moments when a shift in viewpoint opens new light on old struggles. Looking ahead, the next chapter will explore how mastering your emotional energy can further fuel the positive transformation begun here. By learning to guide and shift emotional momentum, you'll uncover even more resources within yourself for growth and joy. If this message helps you or inspires new ideas, remember to subscribe to the Awaken Vision channel. Give the video a like and add your experiences or suggestions below. Every story shared adds hope to this growing community, and every comment could become someone else's perspective today. Chapter 5. Have you ever felt stuck in a heavy mood, only to watch your entire day unravel because of one strong emotion? Maybe a minor annoyance in the morning snowballs into irritability that lingers all afternoon. Or perhaps an unexpected comment sparks anxiety, causing you to withdraw from opportunities or avoid conversations you might otherwise enjoy. Emotions possess a silent power, shaping each moment and coloring the way we experience our surroundings, our relationships, and even our self-worth. But despite how influential emotions can be, most people move through their days on autopilot, unaware that the momentum of a single feeling can grow stronger the longer it goes unchecked. This emotional inertia can pull you further into stress, sadness, or frustration, just as it can keep you from feeling calm, present, or hopeful when you need those qualities the most. It's important to understand that emotional energy behaves much like a current. The more attention and reaction you give it, the stronger and swifter it flows. If you constantly feed anger with frustrated thoughts or fuel disappointment with self-criticism, those emotions will naturally deepen, spreading their influence over your actions and choices. The opposite is also true. When noticed and gently shifted, even the most stubborn mood can gradually lose its intensity. Many people don't realize how much power they already hold to change the emotional atmosphere within themselves. The real problem isn't feeling negative emotions in the first place. These are natural and sometimes necessary responses to life. The challenge lies in letting emotions run the show without ever pausing to redirect, check in, or choose a new course. If you feel trapped in a storm of feelings, it's not because you're weak or broken, but because few of us were taught how to master our emotional energy. Consider Mark, who started each workday with a short commute that often involved traffic. A single encounter with a rude driver could ignite irritation that stuck with Mark all morning. Every small challenge at his job, a delayed email, a skipped coffee break, only reminded him of how the day started wrong. By lunchtime, Mark felt like everything was against him, unable to enjoy a friendly conversation or appreciate small successes. His emotional energy, set spinning by a moment's frustration, colored the entire day. Only after taking a moment to breathe, step outside, and consciously shift his mood did Mark reclaim some lightness and focus. Perhaps you've experienced something similar, one emotional domino tilting the rest. Knowing this is not unusual, but allowing this cycle to dictate your quality of life is not necessary. Understanding how emotional energy works and learning how to interrupt negative momentum is essential for building a more positive, adaptable mindset. Mastery here is not about control through willpower, but gentle, purposeful redirection. Recognizing the signal, acknowledging what you feel, and offering yourself a genuine opportunity to bring in calm, enthusiasm, or perspective. By learning to influence your emotional state rather than being swayed by it, you give yourself more choices and more freedom, even in difficult times. In this chapter, you'll discover how to sense, honor, and shift emotional energy, unlocking deeper confidence, sharper focus, and greater joy in daily life. The answer to shifting your emotional energy lies in cultivating conscious awareness and gentle redirection. The first step is building the habit of checking in with yourself throughout the day, tuning in to how you feel without judgment. Instead of suppressing difficult emotions or pretending they don't exist, you adopt an observational stance, allowing feelings to surface so you can name them clearly. This alone breaks the automatic momentum of unchecked emotions because it moves you from reaction to reflection. The act of labeling an emotion, according to neuroscience studies, helps reduce its intensity. When you give your feelings a name, whether it is anxiety, irritation, sadness, or even boredom, you shift activity away from the emotional centers of the brain and into regions responsible for problem-solving and conscious thought. This pause between feeling and action lays fertile ground for healthier emotional responses. Once you notice and name your emotional state, you create space to explore what is fueling that feeling. Often, underlying thoughts, assumptions, or physical tension keep the emotional current going. By scanning for simple causes, like a hurried morning, hungry stomach, or harsh self-talk, you can address them directly or simply offer understanding. The goal is not to find fault with yourself, but to gently see the landscape of your emotional experience more fully. At this stage, introducing simple redirecting actions is highly effective. Research in positive psychology suggests that behaviors such as deep breathing, mindful stretching, a short walk outside, or listening to uplifting music have the power to disrupt negative emotional feedback loops. Small, intentional changes, especially those that involve both body and mind, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms stress and nurtures clarity. One of the most powerful strategies involves redirecting attention toward a new supportive focal point. This could be an act of self-compassion, where you remind yourself, it's okay to feel this way. I'm allowed to have an off day. Or it may mean naming something you are grateful for in that moment and letting your attention rest there, even for a breath or two. Emotions, like energy, flow wherever attention goes. By concentrating on a stabilizing, peaceful, or hopeful element in your environment or experience, you gradually shift your emotional baseline toward balance or uplift. Some people find visualization helpful, imagining the emotion as a weather pattern passing by, or envisioning themselves surrounded by calming colors or comforting memories to ease the tight grip of intense feelings. This practice is beneficial because it gives you back your sense of agency. Life will always provide circumstances and others' actions you cannot control, but your relationship with your emotional energy is yours alone to shape. Regular check-ins, gentle naming, and simple redirection build your resilience and foster a foundation of calm, even during chaos. You stop seeing emotions as enemies and start viewing them as information, invitations to pause, learn, and respond thoughtfully. As you become skilled at noticing and shifting emotional energy, you notice fewer days lost to negativity and more moments infused with peace, patience, or hope. Studies repeatedly show that individuals skilled at emotional redirection recover faster from setbacks, handle relationships better, and feel a greater sense of control over their well-being. Developing this habit does not mean you never feel pain or struggle. Rather, it gives you the power to meet whatever arises with wisdom and flexibility. You learn that each mood is simply a current you can step out of, swim with, or peacefully let flow by, depending on what the moment calls for. As you gently practice these shifts, you honor your emotions while taking steady steps toward clarity and happiness. Embracing the practice of emotional energy shifts leads to lasting and remarkable changes in your daily life. The first and most immediate benefit is an increase in emotional stability and flexibility. Rather than being swept away by passing moods or quick bursts of frustration, you gain the ability to pause, step back, and choose a more balanced or hopeful response. This means fewer days feel ruined by small irritations, and you have more energy left over for what brings you joy and meaning. You'll discover more presence in relationships as you're able to let go of minor miscommunications and approach your loved ones with patience and understanding. Professionally or academically, emotional clarity supports better focus, improved decision-making, and creativity because you aren't distracted by internal turbulence. Even moments of doubt, boredom, or sadness become meaningful as you learn to honor their messages and gently move yourself toward equilibrium. To anchor this practice into your life, start by setting aside moments for regular self-check-ins, brief pauses throughout the day to ask, how am I truly feeling right now? If strong emotions arise, try labeling them gently in your mind or jotting them down. Then, introduce a brief disruption to the emotional flow, like stepping outside for fresh air, practicing a couple minutes of mindful breathing, or listening to a favorite song. When you find yourself gripped by a difficult feeling, imagine it as a temporary wave, knowing you have the ability to let it pass or steer yourself gently to a safer, calmer shore. Whenever possible, shift your attention, however briefly, to something that nurtures gratitude, humor, or comfort. Over time, tracking these experiences in a journal will help you recognize patterns and progress, building your skill and confidence in this method. Consider a scenario at work where frustration bubbles up over a delayed project. Instead of allowing this mood to control your energy all afternoon, pause and acknowledge the feeling, then ask what is within your control right now. A calm email, a supportive word to a colleague, or even some deep breaths to reset. Picture a disagreement at home that threatens to escalate. Rather than reacting impulsively, you can name your emotion, choose to momentarily step away, and come back with clearer intentions for resolution. In personal growth, the same principle applies when you hit a motivational slump. Identify the source, validate your feelings, and then gently encourage yourself by focusing on a past success or small next step. Each time you meet an emotion with presence instead of resistance, you demonstrate that emotional storms are not prisons. They're invitations to care for yourself more skillfully. Remember, the key to mastering emotional energy lies in consistency and self-kindness. These shifts are not about suppressing what you feel, but learning to act instead of react. Celebrate each moment you can notice an emotion and thoughtfully shift direction, no matter how minor it seems. Genuine progress happens quietly but gathers strength, giving you a sense of capability and peace that endures beyond day-to-day ups and downs. With each step, you expand your ability to hold space for every feeling and create a path back to calm, connection, and joy. Next, you will learn how to sustain your newfound emotional light for consistent growth, keeping the flame bright even when life gets busy. Stay with Awaken Vision on this journey. Subscribe for new insights, give your video a like if you found encouragement here, and share your experiences in the comments. Every reflection lights the way for others to believe in their own power for change, as together we continue growing toward our brightest potential. Chapter 6. There's a unique joy in moments of breakthrough. After days or weeks of personal effort, you suddenly notice a brighter mood, a calmer response to stress, or a gentler spirit within yourself. Yet for many, these bursts of self-improvement seem brief and fragile, slipping away with the next busy week or unexpected setback. The challenge isn't only in igniting change, but in sustaining the steady, supportive flame that carries your progress forward. Life is full of interruptions. Work deadlines, family obligations, emotional ups and downs, unexpected crises or routine distractions can quickly dim even our best intentions. You might relate to the cycle. Getting inspired by a new practice, feeling motivated for a few days, and then, as pressures rise, losing focus and slipping back into old habits. The true test of growth lies in whether you can maintain your emotional momentum, returning to your grounded and hopeful self again and again. Not just during calm moments, but especially when things threaten to blow your light out. Understanding the struggle to sustain growth goes deep into the reality of how habits shape our lives. Research shows that people naturally gravitate toward what's comfortable and familiar, even if it is less helpful in the long term. When you're tired, discouraged, or stressed, old patterns that once held you back can feel like the easiest route. It is here, however, that real transformation can take root. The key is not in being perfect or following routines without fail, but in building small, resilient habits that support you through all circumstances. Imagine someone like Julia, who after learning how to calm her anxiety with breathing exercises, resolved to practice them every day. For a week, she was diligent, feeling lighter and more empowered. Then a busy season at work arrived. Julia forgot her new habit amidst her mounting tasks. Anxiety returned, stronger than before, and she doubted whether change was truly possible. The disappointment gnawed at her until she realized progress isn't measured by perfection, but by the ability to begin again, gently, whenever she drifts off course. Stories like Julia's are common because setbacks are a natural part of learning. The problem is not in losing momentum or feeling discouraged, but in believing that temporary lapses erase all growth. The truth is, flickers of doubt or tiredness will visit everyone. The skill lies in how quickly and kindly you invite yourself back to the practices that work. Recognizing this, you give yourself space to be human, while still holding an honest commitment to nurturing your inner light. Every time you return to your positive routines, even after a hard week, you cultivate resilience, self-trust, and the quiet strength that underpins long-term fulfillment. This chapter sets the stage for learning how to sustain emotional growth with practical tools, self-forgiveness, and inspiring reminders of your progress. Here your journey is honored in all its fits and starts, rooting for each small step that keeps your light burning steady against the winds of daily life. The most reliable solution for sustaining emotional growth is to create a supportive framework of habits, forgiveness, and self-reflection that flexes with life's unpredictability instead of fighting against it. Rather than expecting change to unfold along a straight, perfect line, it works far better to embrace routines and reminders that anchor you, even when your motivation wanes. The first part of this solution is to simplify your habits so they're easy to maintain. Evidence from behavioral science shows that changes are more likely to stick when they're small, concrete, and paired with existing daily actions. For instance, if you want to sustain mindful breathing or gratitude, link that practice to something you already do, like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee. By anchoring new actions to familiar routines, you reduce the mental effort needed to stay on track and make positive choices seem natural over time. Another helpful element is developing a system for gentle self-correction. Habits are most vulnerable when you miss a day or face setbacks, and it is exactly in these moments of interruption that growth deepens. Rather than criticizing yourself for falling behind, treat each lapse as an opportunity to practice encouragement and forgiveness. Remind yourself that lapses do not erase progress. They are invitations to reset without shame. Journaling at the end of your day is especially helpful here. Just a few minutes to note what went well, what slipped, and what you learned paints a realistic picture of your journey and keeps your mind focused on growth rather than perfection. This act of mindful reflection aligns with research, indicating that those who review their days and speak kindly to themselves are much more likely to resume and retain habits in the long run. Building in accountability can also help. This might mean sharing your goals or intentions with a friend, joining a group, or setting up reminders on your phone to check in with your practice. Regular encouragement, whether shared or private, adds a layer of support that makes sustaining change feel less lonely and more engaging. Further research suggests that social accountability significantly increases the likelihood of maintaining routines, particularly during stressful times. When you know someone else cares about your progress, you become more willing to re-engage after lapses. At the same time, don't underestimate the power of visual cues. Leaving a journal in sight or setting calming music for reflection keeps growth habits top of mind. Ultimately, the deepest part of sustaining emotional growth is returning again and again to your why. When you're tired or discouraged, remind yourself what drew you to this path in the first place. Visualize the freedom, peace, confidence, or connection you have tasted when your practices were in flow. Anchoring your efforts in these heartfelt motivations makes setbacks feel like temporary clouds and reminders of your capacity to, with patience, begin again. This restorative approach is far more productive than rigid discipline, as it meets you with compassion and minimizes guilt or discouragement. This gentle, persistent rhythm of routine, reflection, and encouragement creates a resilient inner light that glows steadily even when external circumstances are unstable. Sustaining growth is not about never wavering, but about greeting each new day, no matter how you feel, with openness, forgiveness, and a willingness to try again. Over time, this self-sustaining process furnishes a depth of strength and optimism that becomes your steady companion, enriching your days and brightening the lives around you. When you establish a practical system of supportive routines, reflection, and self-encouragement, the long-term results can be truly transformative. Patterns that once trapped you in cycles of discouragement or self-doubt give way to a gentle resilience, a belief that you can always pick back up, no matter how often you stumble. The energy you once spent feeling frustrated about setbacks goes instead to reinvesting in your well-being, deepening the roots of your positive habits. You'll notice greater emotional balance, because your inner stability isn't dependent on flawless discipline, but on your willingness to return and restart with kindness. Over time, you begin to feel a tangible sense of progress, a kind of quiet pride in knowing you're capable of nurturing growth in the midst of a real and messy life. Confidence builds, not because every day is perfect, but because you witness how gently and reliably you can bring yourself back to what matters. This steady light becomes an inner resource, helping you weather external change, uncertainty, or busy seasons with more grace and adaptability. The steps to implement and sustain this growth are simple but powerful, especially when done consistently. As you start your morning, anchor one of your core habits, such as mindful breathing, gratitude listing, or a positive affirmation, to a routine action you already perform. If you drink coffee, for example, pair your first sips with a check-in. What do I need today to feel my best? At night, spend just a few minutes reflecting on your day. Note one choice or action that made you proud, and one area where you drifted but returned, no matter how small. These honest reflections act as guideposts, reminding you progress is a journey of return, not unbroken perfection. Integrate gentle reminders throughout your space to inspire small acts of recommitment. Perhaps a note inside your planner, a favorite quote where you brush your teeth, or a melody that helps you settle at day's end. Use support systems where you can. Share your intentions with a supportive friend or join a group with similar goals, so accountability feels nurturing instead of pressured. When you find that positivity or mindfulness slips on a hectic day, meet yourself with encouragement. It's okay, I can come back to it now. Over time, what begins as deliberate effort will evolve into a natural circuit, so that when life inevitably interrupts, your default is to gently recommit rather than give up. Practical applications abound in all areas of life. In personal growth, you'll notice that setbacks become stepping stones instead of stop signs. Moments of exhaustion remind you to rest, not quit. Within relationships, returning to gratitude or understanding strengthens trust even after arguments or distance. In your work or studies, pausing to reset when you feel overwhelmed keeps your energy sustainable and creativity alive. These small acts, anchored in routine, lightened by forgiveness, and inspired by your deeper why, grow into a rhythm that fills each day with new possibility. Celebrate every time you return to your habits. Each moment of recommitment is itself a sign of growth. Perfection has never been the measure. Rather, genuine progress lies in the compassionate effort to begin again and again. As you reflect on this journey, notice how the flames of motivation and hope, once easily blown out, now glow steadily, guiding and warming you through every change, every success, and every setback. As you move beyond this chapter and into your life, remember that the path of sustaining emotional growth is both gentle and strong. Let your habits, your self-forgiveness, and your reminders become your lantern and compass, so that no matter what tomorrow brings, you know how to keep the light alive. As you reach the conclusion of Aware Heart, Strengthening Emotional Growth with Mindfulness, remember that you have explored powerful tools for igniting self-awareness, reshaping thoughts, building resilience and gratitude, shifting perspective, mastering emotional energy, and sustaining lasting growth. Each chapter has offered practical steps and encouragement to help you return again and again to your brightest self, no matter what life brings. Growth is an ongoing process that flourishes through daily choices, kind self-reflection, and gentle perseverance. Thank you for investing your time and heart into this journey. Your commitment to self-care and mindful living is a gift not just to yourself, but to everyone around you. If you found these insights helpful, please lend your support by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing to our channel. Together, we can continue to build a supportive, inspiring community for mindful growth.